Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Pennsylvania Berwind Railroad. And this episode is going to be a route tour. And initially I was going to do this all in cinematics, and then I realized that I don't have enough scenery completed in enough of this to actually make that happen. So I'm going to do it all in live mode, and hopefully I don't butcher it too bad. But here we are at the furthest west end. This is Juanita Yard, and this is technically the end of the Pennsylvania Berwind as a short line. There's an interchange here with the Norfolk Southern, and the line actually does continue westward. This wasn't included in the original. This was just a total dead end. But I wanted to include a main line that continued west in case I ever wanted to expand on this route and continue to build on it. So I've got a double track main here that continues west, and this would be the Norfolk Southern main. And this track over here that branches off, I imagined was more for passengers, so maybe Amtrak or a commuter rail line. So that's what that's for. And I actually built this yard off of a real yard. I don't know the name of it, but if you're ever driving on the New York State Thruway out of New York City and you're heading towards upstate, there's a big interchange where you can drive to Jersey, or you can continue to upstate New York, or you can continue down to New York City. And right alongside of that interchange is a big yard. And I think it was part of the NYO&W. I could be wrong. But just using Google Earth, I used that as the base for my track arrangement. And this is kind of what I ended up with. And essentially the way that this yard works is that I imagine these three tracks here to be interchange tracks, or MOW tracks, and the rest would be used for sorting out the locals or any of the trains that are going to continue on to the other yards that are along the line here. The next yard over is Allegheny, and Allegheny, once we get there I'll explain it, but it's a division point yard. So some freight trains from here will go to Allegheny and then get further broken down into other train traffic. I did add a few industries along the side here that were not included in the original. And yeah, so I kind of made this more of my own. I didn't copy the original Pennsylvania Berwind down to a T. And there's still, I think I worked on this like, I don't know, last time was maybe a year ago. So some of the details are out of date. Again, here I'm using these yarn roads, and they're just so broken in Tain. So that's one thing I got to do is replace those. But other than that, you probably saw in the intro too that some of these cars ended up in the ground. I don't know what happened, but so there's that. Obviously, we'll come back here at some point and do a little bit more work. But if we continue eastward out of here, I'll take you to our next location. Hopefully that explains everything for Juanita Yard. But if we continue east, we head out of the yard, and we're gonna go through some mainline track for a little bit, and I'll meet you at the next location. Alright, so here we are at Old Town Junction. This switch track here, going to the left, connects out to Old Town and Vonnie, so this is the Vonnie branch. And I'm not gonna go down that because if you need to see it, you can go back a couple episodes. We've already been there. So we'll continue down the main track just a little bit. And this is the connection to Spruce Run Secondary, I think. Yes. So this branch here goes up to the Mill Creek Tipple, which I think is actually going to be our next episode. So coal mine up there, we're going to go check that out in just a minute. But yeah, so I added this little town over here just to kind of complete it. And I really like the way that this came out. I really went ham on the details, putting mailboxes in and everything up close. But I kind of left it blank back here. So it's another thing I have to kind of come back and do a little bit of work in. But I really like the way that this looks when a train is passing through here. In the original, there was just empty mainline traffic. Or, excuse me, an empty main line like through the woods. So I wanted to add a little bit of detail to it so that, you know, liven up the scene a little bit. So this is what I came up with. So if we continue eastward a little bit more, we hit another grade crossing here, another little development, and here we have a passing siding with a train on it that is a local from excuse me, this isn't a local. This is a yard transfer from Allegheny to Juanita. So a lot of this, some of this is interchange traffic. Some of it is local traffic for the Vonnie branch. So I built this town, this development, a very, very long time ago. Like probably 2010, 2011. And yeah, a lot of it I guess was kind of copy and pasted, but I like the way that it came out. I did some work over here recently and put this in. I originally had this as a grade crossing, but I realized that that was just not going to work. So while we're here, to the left here is our main line. This is heading towards Allegheny, and to the right, this is heading down to the Babcock Mine. So since we're here, we're going to check this out, and then we'll go check out the Mill Creek Tipple next. So if we fly down, this is one of my favorite spots around here. And again, kind of inspired by the Adirondacks and some of the stuff that you see up in the Adirondacks. There's a railroad up there called the Saratoga North Creek, and if you're driving up, I go camping up there every year, and I have to drive up along Route 28, and the Saratoga North Creek crosses 28 a couple times, and one of the crossings has a signal at the top of this hill, at the top of a hill, and I thought that was just like an interesting detail to put in there, so I wanted to add it in because, you know, just to alert people coming down around the bend that there's a train coming through, because it's just kind of a blind turn. You know, so give them a little bit of advanced warning that there's a train crossing. So I really like that, and I really like all the dry brush and the fill and everything that this is built on. It's one of my favorites, and also it's something that I built a long time ago. So here we go, we're gonna pull in here. And yep, so this is Babcock Mine, and it's a little bit bigger than the original P&B. I wanted to add a couple extra tracks just to keep things interesting, up the traffic a little bit. As I was building this route initially, I really wanted to, well, leave room for a lot more traffic so that you could see more trains. The locals were longer, trains were longer altogether. So I really like the details down here. Another thing, I'm gonna have to come back. I want to redo this parking lot. This was kind of early on, but you could kind of see some of the flavor. It was in me years ago, all the detailing and stuff, but you know, not to the standards that I have now. Close. But yep, so this goes right down the end. Oops, sorry, I'm zipping around a lot right here. Sorry if I'm making you sick. This just goes right down to a dead end. And this is just a lead for the runaround track. So let me turn around. Whoop. This is Babcock, and next we're gonna go to Mill Creek, so I'll see you there in just a second. Alright guys, here we are up here at Mill Creek, and this is another coal tipple along the P&B. Lots of coal on this route, and I love it. I love coal. So anyway, again, this is something that I built a long time ago, and I think this is gonna be the next Let's Build video episode that we're gonna tackle this area. Obviously, the tracks are all laid. I don't know if I want to do too much with the tracks. I think these, I think the switches might be a little bit too extreme, so maybe we'll probably come through and fix that a little bit, but otherwise, I think the layout is pretty good. I don't really know how coal tipples are supposed to function, so I think that's something I might have to do a little bit of research on before I come back here and start building in this. But yeah, so this is just a little town, a little coal town. Kind of imagine it as like anywhere northeast coal region USA, sort of. So, oh, I got a tipple here I gotta delete. But yeah, so this is Mill Creek. Lots of coal action up here, lots of tipples. Big, heavy trains out of here. And if you're operating in regular cab mode, it would be a real challenge to get out of here because the grade from here to Old Town Junction is pretty steep. I want to say it's like 1.5%. So, yeah, I didn't fly this whole length of it because there's nothing to really look at. But here it is. This connects right back down to Old Town Junction, where we were just at. Alright, so here we are back at the junction for Babcock. I'm going to just fly quickly down the main line. This is about where the cutoff point is going to be for the route when I go to release it for the first section of it. Somewhere in here. I haven't decided where yet, but we'll see where we end up in a couple of episodes and then make the decision from there. But I wanted to fly down this because there's a junction up here to a quarry. Ooh, getting lots of lag. So yeah, we'll go up this branch, and I honestly can't remember the name of this quarry. I'll have to look it up, and I'll put it in a little title box at the bottom. But yeah, so this is another build from many years ago, and you can see that the move from 2012, or from 2010 to 2012 to Trainz: A New Era, a lot of textures are missing, a lot of buildings are missing. This whole area was pretty much completed a couple years ago, and now we get to start over again. But yeah, so this is a quarry. You see lots of hopper cars up here, like covered hopper cars, which are one of my favorite cars, by the way. But yeah, so just a big quarry operation. I think the trains here originate from Allegheny Yard. Even though this industry is kind of close to Juanita Yard, the trains originate and terminate in Allegheny and get sorted out. So let's continue our way eastward down to Allegheny. This is a scene that I really liked that was pretty much finished a long time ago, but not anymore. There's some frog sound effects in here. I don't know if they're still working because I can't hear anything. But anyway, I really like the scenery through here. I can't wait to come back here and actually finish this back off. So now we are getting into the areas that are just not even touched. I haven't really done anything. It's all blank, as you can see. Right here is the first split for Allegheny. And here comes Allegheny Yard. So Allegheny Yard is a pretty substantial yard. It actually consists of 2 yards, this one being the western yard, and then there's one on the eastern side. And I tried to populate this with a few train cars just to show you what kind of locals or freight trains or whatever would actually be here. So this is the eastern yard. And Allegheny has a little bit of a support facility. Let me slow down. Sorry, I know I'm zipping around too quickly. So we got a bit of a diesel support facility, repair in place, diesel refueling, so on and so forth. Yard office. This is the main hub. This is a division point yard. Lots and lots of activity happens here. And once we finally get into this area, it's going to be a real challenge to build. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also not looking forward to it because it's going to be a lot of like city building and I don't know. It's going to be cool, but man, there's going to be a lot to have to put down. Lots of roads, lots of buildings. So yeah, we'll see. Off of this spur here goes to, let's get over here. This is a steelworks. So if you saw those coil cars, this is the origin for the steelworks. This also accepts a lot of the coal that's produced along the main route. So a lot of those coal trains are destined to come to here to help power the iron working process or the steel mill, or I don't really know how it works. Again, it's another thing I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research on. Luckily, I have a couple books on it, so, and the internet is very, very helpful. So, yep, so this is Big Steel Company. This is gonna be a lot of fun to work out in detail once we get back to it. And again, I went way above and beyond what the original P&B had. The original P&B only had about, I think this was it. It was just like 4 tracks plus 1 track for coal. So I wanted to up the ante a little tiny bit, have some bigger trains, and I think it'll be pretty cool. So, okay, so let's continue to fly east. And this is just a long, straight stretch of track. I don't know how I'm going to make this interesting. I might have to add some curves to it or something. Coming up here, back a long time ago, I was inspired to kind of have the city be built like above the cut, the railroad cut, so that there wasn't so many grade crossings. So the city was actually built a little bit higher. Or I guess not the city was built higher. I guess the train tracks would be built lower than the city. So I kind of started to rough that in a long time ago. But let's continue on eastward. Okay, and here is a junction for a paper mill. And I can't remember the name of the paper mill. I'll put it on a title on the screen when I go to edit this. But maybe it tells me right here if I go to the map. Huntingdon. Yeah, I think that's a paper mill, if I remember correctly. So again, that's something I haven't even laid out any of the track for. So that we're gonna have a lot of work to do there. And yeah, once we start getting into this section of the game, it's gonna get kind of crazy. We got some speed trees over here. I don't really like using speed trees. You've probably noticed. I think that they look great and they're really detailed, but I don't know. I think that maybe if they're used tastefully and in certain places, they might work, but otherwise, I don't like using them too much. I think they hurt your frame rate. All right, so this is the junction for the Pleasantville Secondary. And down this branch is a, let's see, I don't even remember if I did anything. So let's fly down it really quick. There's a lumber company down here. Yeah, this is definitely far from done. This junction here goes over to the Moss Creek branch. So I was trying to build it up into the mountains, but man, at the time I started doing this, I had no idea what I was doing. And I probably still don't, but I'm going to figure it out for you guys this time. This looks so bad. Oh my gosh. All right, so that's Moss Creek. It's not going anywhere. Let's go down the rest of the Pleasantville. All right, so this is Pleasantville. Again, I started it a long time ago, and I mean, there's nothing here really. So down to the left here is the Coal Creek branch, and down the main, if you kept going straight, would take you to Keystone Power. So that's actually a coal receiver. To the left is a coal distributor. So that's another project we will get to. Okay, so back here on the main line, we're heading east towards Grafton. And if I remember correctly, this is supposed to be a spur to a gravel distributor. I think called Grundys. But I can't remember. I wanted to do something like another branch, and I kind of just started to rough it in. I want to say it was Grundys Gravel Distributors or something like that. But if we come up just a little bit further, we hit the Paint Creek branch. Excuse me. Whew. So this is another thing. I probably built this back in 2009. It is not finished, and it's almost embarrassing how bad it actually is. But we'll fly down here a little bit. It's going to be really nice when it's done, no doubt, but right now it just looks like crap. But yeah, so down here is the Paint Creek mill, right? Trying to flip through my paperwork right now too. Curry mill. So that's where we are here. And if I remember correctly, this place consumes lumber from Moss Creek and produces center beam loads that are destined for Old Town, for the industry that in Old Town. I can't remember what the name of it is. Man, so many names. I'm so bad with the names. Yeah, so this is another example of an online distributor and receiver. So everything has a destination or an origin somewhere along the route. And that's really what makes this route so much fun to operate on. Everything has an origin or a destination on the route. It's all online, what they call online industries. So everything, you know where every freight car is going to go. It's just so cool when you're building trains and breaking them down and rebuilding new trains. All right, and here we are in Highland, and this is an area that I've built and rebuilt and built and rebuilt and lost. I mean, more times than I care to count. And it's also why I started from the other end, because this is technically on the beginning side of the Pennsylvania Berwind. But honestly, I rebuilt this so many times I couldn't do it anymore, so I had to go to the west side and start working my way back this way. So here we have Swift Foods that produces, I want to say it consumes cows and livestock and produces beef, but I also can't remember. Here is another oil refinery. This is actually the industry that produces the tanker cars that go out to Old Town for at the oil refinery that we built in episode 2. So there's that. And over here we have another scrap dealer. And this is the guy who produces scrap car loads that go to that we saw go to Vonnie. So all those gondolas full of scrap, they start here. Those freight cars travel a huge mileage, you know, prototypically speaking, in this game. So that's pretty exciting. Over here was supposed to be an intermodal facility, but I think I'm gonna 86 that. I just don't like it. It doesn't fit for me. So I'll put something else there. And I believe over here is a sugar company that interchanges freight cars with something else along the Vonnie branch. I can't remember the specifics. So if we head further east, we will run into Grafton Yard. And funny story about Grafton Yard is that I rebuilt it in Trainz 2012 as its own thing. And what you see here is not what we're going to end up using. I don't know. It's hard to explain because I literally built this section as another map by itself with the intention of clipping this out and repasting it, if that makes any sense. But it's basically the same. It's just scenic differently. Somewhere in here, there's going to be an interchange with another, maybe the CN or CP railroad, or I'm not sure. The original one had an interchange with the B&O or the C&O. So I'm going to keep that theme and have it interchange with something else. But technically, this is Grafton, and this is technically the end of the P&B, the easternmost terminus. So we have another large yard, and as we come up here, there's going to be another small support facility for the diesel engines. Lots of crisscrossing tracks and switches, and I love that. That was one of my favorite things about this area. So off to the left, this is Grafton Industrial. So what we have here is an origin or distribution for, I want to say this is a terminus for hopper cars filled with grain from one of the industries earlier on. Over here is boxcar loads of something else from somewhere. I'm sorry, it's like I don't remember every single detail. If I remember correctly, this is where the steel coil cars end up, some of the steel industry stuff. And over here is the terminus for those garbage trains that you saw. So this was a late addition by Bill M. He added this like way later on, so I snuck it in here. Again, I just kind of dropped it in as a placeholder, so this has got to be built up and detailed and everything. It needs a lot of work. So that was just kind of put in as a placeholder. And if we come over this way, ooh, like this was done so long ago, it's embarrassing. It's just so embarrassing. This is another destination for coal. On the original P&B, it was I want to say it was one of those like coal bridges where coal would be dumped down into barges on boats. And for whatever reason, it didn't work for me. I didn't like it, so I wanted to have just some kind of some kind of a power plant, coal power plant, or something like that. Again, this is all subject to change. It's got to be reworked. Over here is another log production company. So we'll do some work on that too. If you come up this way, I wanted to continue the main line again for maybe Amtrak or some sort of passenger train service. Not included on the original. This is just my own sort of whatever. So I added that in. And yeah, so this is the eastern end of the Pennsylvania Berwind. Alright guys, I think that's probably going to just about do it for this tour. I hope that answered some questions for you. I know I didn't have a whole ton of information about what cars go where. That's something that I can get into later on when we start working on some of those areas that are not finished yet. But there really wasn't a whole lot to show because a lot of this is just not complete, but at least that gives you a bit of an idea. I hope you guys stick around in 2017. I've got a lot more content on the way, lots more P&B, and a new series in Trainz Model Railroad that we're going to start off hopefully in the next week or two. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that as well. So lots more to come. As always, you guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, approach_medium. Snapchat, I do lots of behind-the-scenes type stuff. You can get little sneak peeks. Twitter, I tweet. It's pretty self-explanatory. Instagram, you can follow me and check out my railroad photography. So that's where I put all that stuff there. So if you're looking for more, you could always find me on the social media. But until then, I hope you guys have a happy new year, and I'll see you in 2017.